are so calm. Like, what the I'm also in Kiev right now, sitting in a bomb shelter and freaking out. I mean, like, me reacting any differently isn't going to change the situation, right? It's not like, I mean, I could go into the corridor or I could like go to the bottom floor, but I mean, you know, there's like tiny things I can do, but you know, you carry on. And I got to be ready for it, you know, because this is just one day and this is going to be happening all the time this year because the Russian drone production is kicking up. And I'm sorry to say, but anti-drone support from the United States is ticking down. I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Trump administration is diverting anti-drone technology that was allocated for the Ukrainians by the Biden administration. They're taking those resources away from Ukraine and they're sending them to troops in the Middle East. This was originally reported by the Wall Street Journal. U.S. is redirecting critical anti-drone technology from Ukraine to U.S. forces. Move underscores Trump administration's waning commitment to provide military aid to Kiev. U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is redirecting anti-drone technology earmarked for Ukraine to its own troops based in the Middle East, the Wall Street Journal reported on June 4th. According to the Wall Street Journal, special fuses used in ground-to-air rocket systems that protect against drone attacks will be redirected, and you need those fuses, redirected towards units in the Middle East as the U.S. braces for conflict with Iran as well as Houthi militants in Yemen. We spent so much money bombing the Houthis at the start of Trump's term. He wanted to like make this show of force and like secure trade in the region, and we spent billions of dollars of equipment. We started dropping bombs at such a pace that we were dropping more bombs than we produce, to the point where Asia Pacific commanders who have to like manage our ammunition storage to make sure that we have enough if a war pops off was starting to sound the alarm bells because we're simply firing too many. And I mean, it killed some Houthis. It destroyed some ammunition storages, but it didn't stop the Houthis from engaging in the behavior that they engage in. The Pentagon notified Congress last week in a previously undisclosed message about the redirection of fuses used in an advanced precision kill weapons system was identified by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth as an urgent issue. The fuses were initially bought for Ukraine by the Biden administration. Mind you, this is at the same time, as you can see from this graph, and this is why I'm saying, like, we got to get used to it. Drone attacks on Ukraine are massively increasing this year. And if the Ukrainian intelligence saying that the Russians will be producing enough drones soon to fire 500 drones at Ukraine a night, then this is going to be the status quo. Will be this massive escalation of drone attacks, massive escalation of air attacks, negotiations completely treated unseriously, with dropping off American support and dropping off anti-drone support because they think that the American government is either too weak or disinterested to do anything about it. And at the same time as this is happening, I mean, we can't even like go to the meetings where we're talking about getting, let alone like get a new aid package to Ukraine, get a new weapons sale to Ukraine. Our Pentagon chief is skipping Ramstein meetings for Ukraine's allies on how they can get more support to Ukraine. They don't even see it as necessary to be in those rooms to be like, yeah, I think it's good that you guys are sending. No, that's not even worthwhile to them. That's a waste of time. So, you know, we got to get used to that state of affairs. Maybe a sanctions package will come around the corner in a week or two. Maybe a sanctions package will come down around the corner in a month. But we have no clue because currently the Trump administration is saying, even after, you know, at the start of April, they said in 2 weeks, we'll know if the Russians are serious. Then at the end of April, he said 2 weeks. At the start of May, he said 2 weeks. He said 2 weeks to the Swedish press. And now the press asked him, are you going to consider more sanctions on Russia? And this is Trump's response.
President, on the war.
You've asked. You've had enough. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, so would you consider to put more sanctions on Russia? Because this discussion is going on now for weeks and months, and you tweeted about it once, but then nothing happens. So
yeah, when I see the moment when we're not going to make a deal, when this thing won't stop,
is there a deadline?
in that moment, yeah, it's in my brain, the deadline. When I see the moment where
Now, before, he said the deadline was 2 weeks. Then he said it was 2 weeks again. Then he said it was 2 weeks again. He also said it was immediate when it came to the consideration of the 30-day peace deal. He also originally said it was within 24 hours of the start of the war. Now, deadline. Don't worry about any deadline. Just know that whatever that deadline is, it's in my big old noggin. It's the type of thing a child tells you when you ask, like, when are you going to get your homework done?
At that moment, yeah, it's in my brain, the deadline. When I see the moment where it's not going to stop, and I'm sure you're going to do the same thing, will be very, very, very tough. And it could be on both countries, to be honest. You know, it takes two to tango. But we're going to be very tough. Whether it's Russia or anybody else, we're going to be very tough. That's a bloodbath that's going on over there. And when I see the moment where I say, well, they're going to just keep fighting.
Did you hear that? Let me play that for you again if you didn't.
When I see the moment where it's not going to stop, and I'm sure you're going to do the same thing, will be very, very, very tough. And it could be on both countries, to be honest. You know, it takes two to tango. But we're going to be very tough. Whether it's Russia or anybody else, we're going to be very tough. That's a bloodbath that's going on over there.
He's asked about sanctions on Russia after he sets 3 deadlines, all of which that were passed, on top of the failed 30-day ceasefire, on top of the failed civilian ceasefire, on top of the failed energy ceasefire. And then he's asked about sanctions on Russia, and he diverts it to make sure that people know that he could be talking about sanctions on the Ukrainians. Sanctions on the Ukrainians. Mind you, the Ukrainians agreed to a unilateral 30-day ceasefire, which the Trump administration asked of them. The Ukrainians agreed to the mineral deal, which, unrelated in my mind to the end of a war, you know, whether or not the United States has a certain profit margin in relation to their resources, but they did it anyway to service Trump's interests. They've done everything that Trump has asked of them, and now he's still pretending that it's a both sides issue, that, oh, maybe there'll be sanctions on the Ukrainians and the Russians. Sanction them for what? What do you even ask the Ukrainians to do? They did everything that you asked them to do. Or is it going to be sanction them until they surrender? Is it going to be sanction them until they do another mineral deal? I don't even know what his demand is of the Ukrainians at this point. The Ukrainians have done everything they've asked. That's why the Trump administration isn't really demanding much more of them. They're not making any public demands like do X, Y, Z, do this or that. But here it is. Maybe we'll sanction both countries, Russia or the other one, as if he's scared to even say out loud, sanction Ukraine, because it's ridiculous on its face. We have no deadline. We have no pressure. We have no action from a do-nothing president. This is what this is. They've done every single thing he asked, and the response is, how about we sanction you? Maybe we'll sanction you. For what? He doesn't exactly highlight why, but maybe he will. Oh, is it going to be because of the drone attack? Well, apparently Trump was impressed by it, reportedly commenting that it was quote-unquote badass. Now, other people in the administration thought, oh, this could undermine negotiations. But what negotiations? We're playing patty cake with the tooth fairy at this point. If you think that negotiations at this stage have a chance of success without some new factor being introduced, i.e., the secondary sanctions, massive new aid packages of weapon sales, or something that will tell the Russians that, no, they're not going to conquer Kherson. No, they're not going to conquer the rest of Donetsk. No, they're not going to conquer these places. We talk about the summer offensives. Summer is here. Summer started 6 days ago. They are engaging in offensives in the direction of Konstantinivka. They are engaging in offensives on the east side in the direction of Pokrovsk. They're engaging in offensives in the Kharkiv region. They're engaging in offensives in the Sumy region. You can see it all across the country as they're attacking into the Sumy region. They're capturing villages. They're expanding the war in the country's north, attacking towards the direction of villages like Bilopila, towns like Bilopila, in the direction of Sumy. They're attacking in the direction of Kharkiv, capturing villages here. They're attacking in the direction, like I said, of Konstantinivka. You can see it here. So what do we do? Do we just, is Ukraine supposed to just sit on its hands and wait for it to be sanctioned for doing everything Trump asked and for the invading army to continue to advance? Donald Trump believes in the tooth fairy equivalent of diplomacy at this point. If you're still looking at negotiations, as Vladimir Putin is openly saying, I don't want to negotiate with Zelensky because I don't negotiate with terrorists. He's openly saying he doesn't want to have that sit-down conversation that Trump would have thought by now would have been long in the mirror. According to Trump's start of this presidency, the war should have been over in February. It's June. We're heading towards July. This is no, I talked about Trump being the can kicking world champion. No, he is the can. He has become the can. He is the ultimate sensei of delaying it again and again and again. The deadline is in my head. No one would get away with that in a business environment. No one would get away with that if it was any other president. Could you imagine Barack Obama saying in reference to like, so do you think, what's the deadline for Iran coming to the negotiating table? I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's in my head. He would be lambasted for that. Absolutely lambasted. But this, I mean, the Ukrainians can wait forever. There's bombs going off out my window, and the Ukrainians will just have to sit in the state of limbo, waiting to see if the United States will do anything to keep up the promises that both our country made and Donald Trump made. Or if we're going to get sanctions on the country trying to defend itself and delivering Trump everything he asked for. Can't the EU pick up the slack? They can pick up some of the slack,